love it. I love it. I love it. Look at this. This is the greatest thing I've ever seen.
Hey, I'm not surprised.
Hey, what's poppin', my homies? Hope you're doing well, feeling blessed, having a good day, having a good week. This one's a big card, man. Rocky Leon Edwards taking on Belal Muhammad in the main event. Oh man, this one's good. This one's really good. But guys, as always, we look at my bets from last week, and guys, I've run into some bad form. Which is something, you know, as a gambler, you're going to experience. You're going to experience very, very good streaks. You're going to experience yo-yo streaks where you win and then you lose and you win and you lose. And then you're going to experience hot streaks. And that's what you want. You want to get back to the hot streak. And obviously the pay-per-view, it's a good way to start a hot streak. So we'll see. We'll see if we can start one. Now guys, if you see your name on the screen, you already know. That's money. That's pure money. Let's go. Now, first matchup on the card, we've got Shauna Bannon taking on Ardelean, and Ardelean's making her UFC debut. I've only seen one fight of Ardelean, and what I saw in that fight, I saw aggression, I saw power, I saw Ardelean trying to decapitate the opponent, right? She's got big power, she'll throw down on the feet. So if you're someone that likes plus money with women's mixed martial arts, you're going to get Ardelean fighting for your money. You know, this girl's got big power, very aggressive. Whereas on the flip side, Shauna Bannon, she's more about footwork. She's more about speed. She's more about kicks. Whereas, guys, like I said, Ardelean on the flip side, she's more aggressive. She wants a brawl. You know, she's going to walk forward and try to, you know, invite Shauna Bannon into a brawl. She wants a brawl. Let's stand in the middle of the octagon and throw down, Max Holloway style. That's what she wants. Now, does Shauna Bannon give her that fight? Because if she gives her that fight, she's getting dusted. You know, the power of Ardelean is much more than Shauna Bannon. But it really comes down to, you know, game planning, who can fight their fight, who can do what they've got to do to win the matchup. If Shauna Bannon stays long, uses her footwork, uses speed, you know, and doesn't give Alice the brawl, she can win the fight. So give me Shauna Bannon. But guys, I just want to say, Shauna Bannon at minus 200 or more than minus 200 is kind of sickening. I'm not going to lie. It's kind of sickening. So, although I'm siding with Shauna Bannon to win the fight, although I'm making that my prediction, in terms of making a bet, I wouldn't bet Shauna Bannon over minus 2. That's kind of sickening, but that is the pick. Now guys, moving into a matchup between Mick Parkin taking on Lukasz Brzeski, and in my opinion, I haven't seen the odds. I've not seen the odds of this matchup, but Mick Parkin should be minus 400. He should be a big favourite, and that's because, you know, the boxing of Mick Parkin, his boxing is extremely good. Now, at least on a technical level, right? In terms of power, in terms of, you know, really putting violent intentions into the technique, Mick Parkin doesn't really do that. At times, it kind of looks like he's sparring. It kind of looks like that, right? But the technique, he understands the jab. He understands the 1-2. He understands all the boxing combinations. But at times, you know, where's the aggression to the technique? So guys, if you're someone like me that does see that in the game of Mick Parkin, where you're seeing the technique being really good, but you're not really seeing much power in the technique. If you're someone like me that sees that, in my opinion, that's still less of a worry than the worries on Lukasz Brzeski. And what I mean by that is, there's more red flags in the game of Lukasz Brzeski. You know, his cardio's not good. His defense, his boxing offense, he's just not that good. And he did get his first win against Johnny Walker's brother, Walter Walker. But even in that performance, it's just not a good performance for Lukasz Brzeski. And that kind of seems to be the theme of his UFC career. Whereas Mick Parkin, you know, there's real potential with Mick Parkin. The boxing is so good. He just needs to be a bit more aggressive, a bit more violent with the techniques. So guys, in my opinion, it should be a pretty dominant win for Mick Parkin. You know, 4-0 in UFC, should improve to 5-0 against Lukasz Brzeski. So that's the pick. Give me Mick Parkin. Now moving into a matchup between Sam Pattersen taking on Kiefer Crosbie. And guys, in Sam Pattersen's UFC debut, he got dusted by Yanal Ashmouz. You know, he got dusted so badly. He was trying to clinch up with Mark Goddard, you know, trying to push Mark Goddard against the fence, trying to fight, right? He thought Mark Goddard was the opponent. That's how badly he got dusted. However, his performance against Johan Lemos was extremely good. No damage. Sam Pattersen took 0 damage. Now Sam Pattersen, he's kind of got the giraffe neck. And having a giraffe neck essentially means that your chin's in the sky, right? And when your chin's in the sky, that's not a good thing. That's a really bad thing, right? When your chin's in the sky, the opponent might find your chin. And that's kind of what Yanash Moves did against Sam Pattersen. Now, can Kiefer Crosbie do the same thing? Can he find the chin of Sam Pattersen? Because, guys, you can see from the style of Kiefer Crosbie, he wants to walk forward, get into the pocket against Sam Pattersen. Because once you get into the pocket against Sam Pattersen, it doesn't really matter that Sam Patterson's taller and longer than the opponent. Once we're in the pocket, that's out the window, right? There's no advantage when it comes to who's taller and longer once we get into the pocket. Now it comes down to, you know, who's leaving their chin in the sky, who's going to be first to land the hook in the pocket. It comes down to that. And if you're Sam Pattersen, you don't really want the fight to be decided based on that. If you're Sam Pattersen, you'd much rather the fight be decided based on your terms. And what that means is, you know, use your height and reach, stay nice and, you know, elusive on the feet, stay using the jab, the 1-2, use those boxing combinations to keep the opponent at bay, right? Or take the opponent to the mat, similar to how you did against Johan Lemos. You want the fight to be decided more based on what you do well, what you do good. Now, Kiefer Crosbie, he's got to show toughness. He's got to take away the space between him and Sam Pattersen. And that's more of an effort. That takes more effort than what Sam Pattersen has to do to win the matchup. So give me Sam Pattersen to win the fight. That's the pick. Now, moving into a matchup between Muhammad Mokaev taking on Manel Kape. And guys, how is this matchup on the prelims? Guys, how? Please, someone go to the comments. Tell me how. The only way this fight's on the prelims, the only way you can make sense of it is the UFC wants you to watch the prelims. And they know that if they put Manel Kape against Muhammad Mokaev on the prelims, you're going to watch it. You have to, right? Because in my opinion, this is the best fight on the card. Like, what fight's better than this? Tell me one fight. The co-main event? No. The main event? No. Manel Kape and Muhammad Mokaev. Oh my goodness. This is it. This is it. Now, for those of you that have a Rain Man type memory and you listen to my breakdowns on a weekly basis, you listen to my breakdowns religiously, you will know that I mentioned for Muhammad Mokaev in his UFC debut, I mentioned before he made that fight, I said Muhammad Mokaev in the future will be a UFC champion. Right? And I still believe that. I do still believe that. I think his potential is just, it's there to see, right? Undefeated in UFC. His wrestling is very good. At times, you know, he can fail with the takedown. And I want to speak about that because against Alex Perez, there's times in the fight for Muhammad Mokaev where he'll kind of shoot the takedown, fail with the takedown, but then, you know, continue to chain wrestle, continue to shoot the takedown over and over. Even if he fails once, he'll continue to shoot. And that's because Mokaev, you know, understands mixed martial arts comes down to who can impose their will, who can be dominant, and who can, you know, fight their fight. And Mokaev is a wrestler. He wants to wrestle the opponent. So even if he fails once with a takedown, he's going to shoot again. He's going to continue to chain wrestle the opponent. That's what Mokaev wants to do. So even if it's not working 100%, we know that Muhammad Mokaev will stay with the wrestling game plan. Now, can he do that against Manel Kape? Well, guys, he's going to have to. He's going to have to because Starboy, Manel Kape, this guy's striking is getting better and better. He's been around for a while. He's very experienced. But guys, right now, Manel Kape is in serious form. You know, guys, you're seeing against Dos Santos, this was a real war, an amazing fight on the feet. And there's moments where Dos Santos actually clipped Manel Kape. But guys, Dos Santos likes to fight on the feet, whereas Mokaev, as I've mentioned, he's adamant that his wrestling game plan will be enough to win the contest. But guys, what happens if it's not the case? What happens if Mokaev is faced with real adversity? What happens if his ground control isn't enough to keep Manel Kape on the mat? Guys, in that case, we may see Mokaev faced with real adversity, right? Where he's forced to fight on the feet, where Mokaev isn't going to have the advantage. Manel Kape will have the advantage on the feet. And if Mokaev is forced to fight that fight, then he might learn. He might get dusted on the feet. And that's really a credit to Manel Kape, his progression in the game, his form. When he first entered the UFC, his output, it wasn't great, but he's so composed, he finds the target, and his combinations, his speed, his precision, his power. It's all good work for Manel Kape. And it just comes down to, can I stop Mokaev from wrestling me? Can I stop Mokaev from holding me on the mat? And if he can stop him from doing that, I'm telling you, Manel Kape, he's good to go. He's good to go. And there's less pressure. There's less pressure on the shoulders of Manel Kape. And I also think he's more well-rounded. Imagine being, the one that has less pressure and you're better. Potentially, in my opinion. Give me Manel Kape. Now moving into a matchup between Oban Elliott taking on Preston Parsons. And guys, they're kind of similar. These fighters are kind of similar in a way. And what I mean by that is, defensively, they're both pretty bad. You're looking at Oban Elliott. There's so many openings that he leaves for the opponent to find. And you're seeing that against Val Woodburn. I mentioned in that breakdown, I literally said word for word, Val Woodburn probably drops Oban Elliott. Oban Elliott, being a tough, scrappy Welsh gangster, probably survives being dropped. Then he works his way back into the fight, takes over and wins the fight. And that's exactly what happened. Like, literally that happened, right? And that's because defensively, Oban Elliott isn't that good. However, guys, looking at Preston Parsons, he's very similar in the sense that defensively he's not that good. And that kind of makes for a fun fight. It makes for an entertaining fight where both fighters are going to get clipped. Both fighters are going to get hurt. And that's a fun fight to watch. That's what the UFC wants. The UFC wants fights where you're watching the fight and you're thinking, I cannot wait to see the next fight. If this fight's happening here and it's this crazy and we've got 7 more fights, 8 more fights, you stay watching. You stay watching. So the UFC understands what they're doing with this fight. They understand that Oban Elliott is a guy that can get clipped, he can get hurt, and he can work his way back into the fight. They understand with Preston Parsons, this guy's got a good pace, a good pressure, but his boxing guard is open at times and you can find his chin. And it's going to make for a fun fight because both guys defensively, they're not that good. It makes for a fun fight. So guys, in my opinion, the lock kind of seems like fight doesn't go the distance because both of them defensively aren't great. They're going to find each other's chins. They're going to really throw down. It's going to be a very fun, entertaining, violent fight. So fight doesn't go the distance kind of seems like a lock. But to make a prediction, give me the Welsh gangster, Oban Elliott. Now moving into a fight between Modestas taking on Marcin Prachnio. And guys, this one's decent matchmaking. Not the greatest fight on paper, but in terms of competitiveness, it seems like a good matchup. And guys, Marcin Prachnio is primarily a karate player, so look for Marcin to throw heavy body kicks, heavy calf kicks. He's not a great boxer, and his cardio is kind of dusty. Whereas Modestas on the flip side, he's got very decent cardio. His footwork's very good. His clinch against the fence, is very active. He understands how to dig the underhooks to begin to reverse the position against the fence. He understands what to do in most areas of the fight. The problem with Modestas is, at times, he kind of folds to the power of the opponent. You're seeing against Pattersen, the check hook. The check hook dusted Modestas. You're seeing against Khalil Roundtree, dusted. You're seeing against Jimmy Crute, who's got mainly power with little technique. Just the power was enough to stop Modestas. So it seems to me that Modestas kind of loses the power more than anything. And Marcin Prachnio being primarily a karate player, a kicker, someone that doesn't really sit down on their punches, it seems to me that Modestas, he should win. So that's the pick. Moving into a matchup between Jake Hadley taking on Kaelin Loughran. And Jake Hadley's going to be moving up to bantamweight, which, is that a good thing? Is it a bad thing? I don't know. But analysing the game of Jake Hadley, that's going to be a smart thing to do. And what I've noticed in the game of Jake Hadley is once you start to find his chin, once you find a connection with his chin, he starts to fold. He really folds under the pressure. You're seeing that against Charles Johnson. You're seeing that against Cody Durden. Both those guys started to find the chin of Jake Hadley. And it's almost like he turns from an aggressive fighter into a passive fighter. A fighter that's more concerned with what the opponent's doing rather than, looking to dictate the dance. Looking to, find his openings. And it all starts by finding the chin of Jake Hadley. And Loughran is very capable of doing that, right? His striking's very good. His wrestling, his grappling, he's very well rounded. Loughran is a real prospect. It just seems like a very tough fight for Jake Hadley. And, you know, Jake Hadley may think, well, I've got the speed, I've got the boxing, I've got the experience, I've got the jiu-jitsu. Jake Hadley may think those things, and he kind of does have those things, but as I mentioned, when you find the chin of Jake Hadley, it's almost like he just folds. He just folds under the pressure and also the power, right? Once it makes a translation to his chin, he just folds. And guys, sometimes in chess, right? Sometimes in chess, when the opponent starts to attack, you just fold. Things just get worse. You need to find the right moves at the right time, especially when things aren't going your way, right? And when you don't, things get worse, right? And that's kind of what you see in the game of Jake Hadley. Once you find the chin of Jake Hadley, you can turn him from aggressive to passive. You know, he'll stop throwing his strikes, start to respect the opponent more than what he should do. And guys, as we know, once you start to respect the opponent, now we know who's in charge. Now we know who's winning the round. Now we know who the judge should score the round for. Or at least they should, because their job, you know, apparently they can't do their job most of the time. But yeah, man, once you clip the chin of Jake Hadley, it's like his whole game just crumbles. He'll start to walk backwards. He'll stop striking with the opponent, start watching, start respecting. And I just kind of think, you know, Loughran, he's a good prospect. So give me Loughran. Moving into a matchup between Molly Mccann taking on Brasil. Very decent matchmaking, right? We've got Molly Mccann, who's very aggressive, right? She knows how to box. She knows how to wrestle. And she's very, very aggressive. But Brasil on the flip side, she's very fast. And if she can maintain her distance, use her kicks, and essentially keep Molly Mccann from wrestling, taking her to the mat, pushing her against the fence, or even getting into the pocket where Molly Mccann can land big, powerful punches. If Brasil can stop all of those things, then she could potentially beat Molly Mccann. It comes down to who can fight their fight, who can do what they've got to do. If you're Molly Mccann, you don't want to stay at distance. You don't want to fight Brasil, you know, being 6 foot away from the opponent. You don't want to do that. If you're Molly Mccann, you want it close. You want the fight against the fence. You want the fight on the mat. You want to make it a dirty fight. And Molly Mccann likes to do that. If you're Brasil, you don't want any of that. You don't want none of that. You want the fight to be more technical, more clean. You want the fight to be more about footwork, more about speed, more about distance control. You want the fight to be more a chess match, right? Where you're making strategic moves. You're not just going full guns blazing. You know, blitz. You're not just throwing the pieces around, trying to create something, right? You're taking your time. You're finding the right moves. That's what you want to do if you're Brasil. And guys, I'm sure that Brasil is going to attempt to fight in that way. And it may be for Molly Mccann to, you know, take the initiative to bring Brasil into a dogfight. It may take for Molly Mccann to, you know, be aggressive, press the action, force the issue. It may come down to that. Because guys, believe me, the one that has the right game plan, the one that can impose their game plan in this fight, that's going to be the winner. If it's Brasil with the distance and the speed and the footwork and the control, then it's going to be a Bruna fight. And she's a plus 250 underdog. But if Molly Mccann says, no, none of that, right? You're fighting meatball. You're going to get into the pocket with meatball. If Molly Mccann says that, then Molly Mccann might dust her up. And guys, I've seen Molly Mccann fight live twice. I've actually bet against her when she was in Liverpool against Gillian Robertson. And that's because Gillian, you know, her jiu-jitsu is very good. She took the back, you know, and choked down Molly Mccann. And Gillian was an underdog. And then I bet on Molly Mccann against the Zombie Girl, which was another fight that was at live. And that was a real war. But guys, in my opinion, the betting line is kind of off. It's kind of off. If the bookie favours Molly Mccann, I wouldn't disagree with that. But to put her at the odds that she's currently at, I kind of disagree with that. But if she goes in there and shows us, look, no worries, I was going to dominate this fight anyway, despite what the betting line's saying. If Molly Mccann goes in there and does that, then all the credit. But in my opinion, the big underdog, Brasil, that's the pick. Hey guys, if you waited to smoke with me, amen. You've been smoking this whole time, double amen. If you're not a smoker but you enjoy the smoke breaks, that's always been a triple amen gang. Let's go. And guys, I can't smoke too much with this strain on this breakdown because this strain is a violent one. It's violent. Guys, this strain it's one of those strains where you're smoking it on Saturday night, right? You're watching the fights, you're smoking this strain, and you're getting couch locked, right? But then, out of nowhere, a big knockout, right? And you kind of sober up, and then you roll up. Then you just repeat the cycle throughout the whole card. You know what I'm saying? You just smoke up, you know, get couch locked. Oh man, big knockout. You sober up, then you roll up. And that's essentially the recipe to getting dusted. But if you're not experienced, if you don't smoke the blunts on the daily, smoke weed every day, if you don't do that, then that recipe right there, it will really dust you up. Don't do it. But if you're experienced, you know, if you're smoking weed, right, if you know what to do, then that recipe right there, that will toast you up. So yeah, guys, let's go. Now moving into a matchup between Nathaniel Wood taking on Daniel Pineda. And guys, I'm quite confident that Nathaniel Wood would win this matchup. I'm quite confident. And the reason as to why that is, Daniel Pineda, 1 round cardio, pure dusteration, dusty cardio. Now his jiu-jitsu is good, right? If he can find a round 1 submission, that would be very impressive. Against someone like Nathaniel Wood, that would be very impressive in my opinion, you know, finding a round 1 stoppage against someone of Nathaniel Wood's quality. Now, what's more likely in my opinion is Nathaniel Wood hasn't found a stoppage in quite a few years. But against someone like Daniel Pineda, someone that has dusty cardio, 1 round cardio, it kind of seems to me that not only should Nathaniel Wood win the matchup, I think he should find a stoppage against someone like Daniel Pineda. So that seems more likely to me than a Daniel Pineda round 1 stoppage. Give me the prospect, give me Nathaniel Wood. He's very well rounded. His boxing's good, his wrestling, his jiu-jitsu, his cardio, his calf kicks, his footwork, his IQ, his ability to recover. Even if you find his chin, right, and you rock him, you drop him to the mat, he can recover. Nathaniel Wood is extremely well-rounded, and like I said, he hasn't found a stoppage in quite a few years, but against someone that has, you know, 1 round cardio, Daniel Pineda, against someone like that, not only should Nathaniel Wood win the matchup, he should find a stoppage. Give me the prospect, give me Nathaniel Wood. Now, guys, moving into an absolute banger, we've got Ardelean taking on Giga Chikadze. This one's a real fight, a real scrap. And Ardelean, this is the homie. This is Coach Arnie. I've trained with Arnie a lot, learned a lot about mixed martial arts from Arnie. And what I could tell you about Ardelean is something you already know. His southpaw boxing, his left hand, his jab, his boxing is so good. But guys, on the flip side with Chikadze, he's more about kicking. You know, he doesn't really want to box with the opponent. He wants to almost mesmerize the opponent when it comes to kicks. And if you kind of fall into that trance where you watch the kicker, where you watch Chikadze, you know, kicking the opponent, and you're hesitating, you're waiting for that kick to be thrown. If you become like that, then Chikadze always looks so good, right? When Chikadze gets into a kicking rhythm, it becomes very difficult to compete in that fight. You don't want to compete with Chikadze when it comes to kicks. You don't want to do that. The way to beat Chikadze has always been to take away the space, but to take away the space, it's not so easy, right? But you see him with Calvin Kattar, right? Calvin Kattar just marched forward. He was so adamant that Chikadze would fight that fight without kicks, without space. And guys, trust and believe me, Ardelean can replicate a similar performance to Calvin Kattar. He can do that. Or he can take Chikadze to the mat, you know, wrestle the opponent, start to mix up his performances, you know. Arnold is so happy to stand and box. He's so happy to do that. And he doesn't really want to wrestle the opponent. His defensive wrestling is very good, right? He'll compete with the wrestling if he's made to do so, but he doesn't really want to go out of his way to wrestle the opponent. But here against Chikadze, being on a 2-fight losing streak, I think, you know, the well-rounded game and the experience of Ardelean, it's going to show. And on the flip side, if you're Chikadze, you want the fight on the feet. So if Arnold wants to box, you want to kick. And now it comes down to range control. Who can fight at their range? If Arnie gets into the pocket and maintains that space where there's no space by staying in the pocket, then it's going to be a real fight. A very, very good fight. But guys, like I said, Arnie is so well-rounded. He's so experienced, right? He can mix in the wrestling. He can get Giga to the mat and basically ask Giga, look, there's no kicks on the mat. Where's your jiu-jitsu? Where's your grappling? Let's see your grappling. So yeah, give me the homie. Give me Arnold Allen. Oh guys, moving into a matchup between CLD, Christian Leroy Duncan taking on the Brazilian Gregory Rodrigues, Violent Obama. And yeah, one time someone left a comment on my breakdown and said, Gregory Rodrigues, that's Violent Obama. And since then, every time I see Gregory Rodrigues, I'm like, yeah, that dude's Obama. That dude is Violent Obama. But yeah, man, Gregory Rodrigues, this guy's good. You know, his record, 6 wins, 2 losses in the UFC. That's a very decent record. And if you're Christian Leroy Duncan, if you can get a win against someone like Gregory Rodrigues, that kind of proves, you know, you're a prospect. You're a real prospect. What has CLD got to do against someone like Gregory Rodrigues to get a win? You know, Gregory's so good on the feet. Defensively, though, he's not great. You know, his Muay Thai is good, but most Muay Thai fighters, defensively, they're not good. And you kind of see that in the game of Gregory Rodrigues. You know, Chidian Jaquani put a hole in his head. He puts a hole in his forehead. Then you'll see him with Bruno Ferreira, who absolutely dusted Robocop. So defensively, the Muay Thai striker, he's not great. And CLD has these beautiful Taekwondo kicks, but those kicks also require a lot of energy. So there's going to be positives and negatives to the kicks of CLD. The positives would be, you know, you can get respect of the opponent because the opponent starts to think, you know, well, if I get hit by those kicks, the fight might be done. So you gain the respect from the opponent. But the negative would be those kicks, they take a lot of energy. And if you get tired with those kicks, they become even more difficult to execute to perfection, which means the opponent starts to read you like a book. The opponent starts to see the cues that you're going to spin. And that's where, you know, all of us become experts whilst we're watching the fight. We start to say, well, if you're tired, you shouldn't spin, you shouldn't jump. But guys, if that's your whole game, even if you're tired, you stay with your game. You stay with what you know. And CLD, he really loves to kick. He loves to use those Taekwondo kicks on the feet that take a lot of energy, right? But they're very dangerous. Now CLD against Dennis Tululin, his accuracy, it was so good. It was unbelievable. The sequence that finished that fight, wow, just incredible accuracy from CLD and the creativity to the sequence that found the stoppage. It was really good stuff. And if he can do something similar against someone like Gregory Rodrigues, you know, that would be a real statement. Give me CLD. Moving into a matchup between Paddy Pimblett taking on Bobby Green. And guys, in all fairness, Bobby Green is certainly the more proven fighter. There's less questions to ask in the game of Bobby Green. And what I mean by that is, we know that Bobby Green can box. We know he's got the hands down shoulder roll style. We know Bobby Green can wrestle. We know that Bobby Green is battle tested. There's less questions to ask when it comes to the veteran Bobby Green, who's now King Green. Whereas Paddy Pimblett, he's got his chin in the sky. His boxing defense is very questionable. And against someone like Bobby Green, you don't want your chin to be in the sky. You want to tuck your chin and look through the eyebrows. That's what you want to do against Bobby Green. And that's what you want to do against, you know, anyone. You don't want your chin in the sky. Now, Paddy Pimblett, his jiu-jitsu is very, very good. His wrestling is not on the same level as Khabib Nurmagomedov, but he could surprise Bobby Green with a takedown here and there. And it's also going to be very interesting when the fight hits the mat, because Bobby Green does have the grappling ability, but can he show that against someone who loves to grapple? Paddy Pimblett is a very dangerous grappler. He's a very decent grappler. And guys, I kind of think Paddy Pimblett is catching Bobby Green at the right time. If you notice with Bobby Green, he's starting to really get clipped more and more in his performances. Like against Drew Dober, hands down, got caught. Against Jalen Turner, the speed and accuracy of Jalen Turner, it was too much. Even against the old dog Jim Miller. And I did side with Bobby Green, but even a few times in that performance, Jim Miller was able to find the chin of Bobby Green. So guys, if this matchup happened, say 2 years ago, all day I'm picking Bobby Green. But in 2024, it seems like Paddy Pimblett might be good enough, just about good enough to beat Bobby Green. And guys, even if Paddy doesn't win this fight, this is a good test. It's a good fight to gain experience, win or lose. It's very necessary for Paddy to test himself against someone with the experience of Bobby Green. Give me Paddy the Baddy. That's the pick. Now, moving into the co-main event, we've got Tom Aspinall taking on Curtis Blaydes. And guys, I've got every single Tom Aspinall fight correct. Every single one. Even his fight against Curtis Blaydes, where there was no fight, but there was still a winner of the fight, even though, like I say, there was no fight. The winner was Curtis Blaydes via, freak injury for Tom Aspinall. So guys, I've gotten all of Tom Aspinall's fights correct. And what I can tell you with this co-main event is, either of these guys can win. Let's start with that, right? If you're Tom Aspinall, you can win this co-main event. You can dust up Curtis Blaydes. But if you're Tom Aspinall, do you want to see a round 4? You don't want to see a round 4, right? If you're Curtis Blaydes, do you mind seeing a round 4? You've been there before, right? And that's the experience difference between Curtis Blaydes and Tom Aspinall. If you're Curtis Blaydes, you want to fight smart, because that's something you don't do when it comes to big opportunities, big occasions, big fights, right? You want to use your wrestling. You want to get the opponent to the fence. You want to get the opponent to the mat. You want to, bring the opponent into your world. You're a very, very good wrestler. You're not a good boxer. Your chin, it's dusty. It's super dusty. So understand that if you're Curtis Blaydes, if you're Razor Blaydes, if you think you can win this fight on the feet, then go ahead. Go ahead and dust up another opportunity. You know what I'm saying? This is a big opportunity for Curtis Blaydes. A big fight. You want to fight smart. You don't want to box with Tom Aspinall, because if you try and do that, you're going to get dusted. So if you're Tom Aspinall, you kind of want to get the fight stopped in round 1 or round 2. If it goes further than round 2, then you may find yourself in real adversity against one of the best wrestlers in the weight class, right? Curtis Blaydes, his wrestling is phenomenal. It's just his fight IQ and his chin, right? Those are the real negatives in the game of Curtis Blaydes. But if Curtis Blaydes can fight smart, just fight smart once in a massive, massive fight, then he could absolutely win against Tom Aspinall in the co-main event. He could do that, right? It comes down to what I always say it does. Game planning. Who can impose their will? Who can fight smart? Who can do what they've got to do? Who's going to do that? I'm actually going to change my pick right before I make it right now. Like I mentioned, I've gotten all of Tom Aspinall's fights correct. I took Curtis Blaydes in that fight. There was no fight. We're going to get a fight this time. We're going to get a fight. I'm going with the underdog again. I'm going with Curtis Blaydes. I just think, if he survives round 1, starts to bring Tom Aspinall to the mat, even though Tom Aspinall does have, a black belt, even though his grappling is so good, we haven't seen Tom Aspinall get tired. We've not seen Tom Aspinall go, 15 minutes into a fight, 20 minutes into a fight. We've not seen it. Now, there's a chance we still don't see it because Curtis Blaydes, as I mentioned, the fight IQ, the dusty chin, it shows time and time again, especially in big fights, especially in big occasions. And this co-main event, it is a big fight. It is a big occasion. But I just think if Curtis Blaydes can fight smart just once in a big fight, then he may let people know, I'm here to compete. I'm one of the best wrestlers and I still have the potential to become a champion. Give me the underdog Curtis Blaydes and I might bet it. We'll see. Moving into the main event, and a phenomenal main event. We've got Rocky Leon Edwards taking on, remember the name, Belal Muhammad. And in all fairness, a lot of people kind of troll Belal Muhammad, right? He's got no knockdowns, no stoppages. Well, he did get a stoppage against Sean Brady. But I forgot who said it. Someone said it in my Discord. That fight doesn't count as a stoppage because Sean Brady's still on his feet, right? And that's kind of funny. It's kind of true. We can't count that. Belal Muhammad, we don't count that. You've got no fans. You've got no stoppages, right? But guys, on a real level, on a serious level, Belal Muhammad is extremely underrated. He really is, right? So many times I bet my money on Belal Muhammad as an underdog against Wonderboy, against Lukasz, against Burns. So often, Belal Muhammad finds a way to outwork the opponent, to outcompete the opponent. And that's just, the style of Belal Muhammad. He's not knocking the opponent dead. He's not got big power, but his output's good. His cardio, his wrestling. He finds a way to outwork the opponent and to win the fight. And guys, in all fairness, you have to respect that, right? You may not be a fan of Belal Muhammad. You may look at his style and be like, you know, I'm not really a fan of what he's doing. But when it comes to his competitiveness, when it comes to his ability to find a way to win, right? That's something you do respect. That's something we must respect. And I do. But guys, there's things that Leon Edwards is going to do in this fight that's going to make the fight very, very difficult for someone like Belal Muhammad. And Belal Muhammad, like I said, his cardio's good, his wrestling, his output, he finds a way to win. But Leon Edwards, he does the basics. He does the basics on a very, very high level. His jab, his 1-2, his body kicks, his calf kicks to the head kick, right? Rocky Leon Edwards does the basics so well. And Belal Muhammad also understands his basics. You know, he understands pressure. He understands how to fatigue the opponent, even though he's not, you know, smacking the opponent with Francis Ngannou-like power. Belal Muhammad understands how to break down the opponent, just in a much different way than what Leon Edwards wants to do. Leon Edwards is going to stay nice and composed, very, very patient, and he's going to find his openings. And when he does, he's so efficient, so effective. He's so good at the basics. Leon Edwards is phenomenal. He's really good. Now, guys, there is a few ways the fight could go, but one way that the fight probably doesn't go is Belal Muhammad drops or KOs Leon Edwards. That probably doesn't happen, right? Now, one thing that could happen, one way the fight could be, let's say that Leon Edwards initially looks good in round 1. You know, he's finding his jab, he's finding the body kicks, he's looking very good on the feet. Then, in round 2, Belal Muhammad starts to wrestle the opponent, starts to push Leon against the fence, maybe gets him to the mat, and Leon may have a couple moments on the feet, but round 2's more about grappling, more about what Belal Muhammad wants to do. Then you've got a fight that's 1-1. Then you're seeing Leon starting to slow down into a 3rd round, into a 4th round, and you could see Belal Muhammad up very nicely on the scorecards going into a 5th and final round. But guys, even in that case, there's still a chance that Leon Edwards finds the 5th round stoppage, because guys, we've seen it. We've seen just how good Leon Edwards is with the basics at all times in a fight. Even if he's losing the fight, he can find a stoppage in that 5th and final round. We've seen it. It's possible, right? And that's what you're going to get with Rocky Leon Edwards. So guys, give me the champion. Give me the sharp boxer. Give me Rocky Leon Edwards, and still to dust up Belal Muhammad. As always, guys, drop down your main event, your co-main event, your Money City bets. Drop all that good stuff in the comment section below. And as always, keep your eyes to the sky, never glued to your shoes. Peace.